Study the given information to answer the questions that follow it. The following pie chart shows the percentage distribution of the voters in 5 different villages, A through E. The total number of voters in the 5 villages is 20,000. So 20,000 is the total number of voters, out of which village A has 25%, B has 18%, and so on. The following bar graph shows the percentage of voters who had cast their votes and the percentage of invalid votes cast in the 5 given villages. The percentage of voters who had cast their votes is calculated out of the total number of voters in any village, and the percentage of invalid votes out is calculated out of the total number of votes who had cast their votes. So let's understand this. Suppose there are total 100 voters in any village, in any city. Now these 100 voters may not necessarily all of them will go and vote. Let's say only 80 of the voters, they go and vote. Now, when 80 voters go and vote, it's not necessary that all the votes are going to be valid. Maybe only 60 were valid votes and 20 were invalid votes, right? So we will say that whatever was the total number of voters, 80% of them, they cast their vote. This is casting the vote. Out of these total votes, we can say that 25% were invalid. So the percentage of the invalid votes is on the number of voters who cast their votes. So the percentage of invalid votes is calculated out of the total number of voters who had cast their votes, not the total number of people who were eligible. So 25% is what we will write, and not 20 out of 100, which is 20%. So in village A, let's say there are 100 people. Out of those 100 people, only 84 people went ahead and voted. And then they voted. Out of those 84 people who voted, not all 84 votes were correct, they were fine, they were valid. 15% of those were invalid. That means only 85% were valid. Once we have understood this, we can proceed with the questions. First question is, what is the ratio of number of valid votes cast in village A to that in village C? Since this is a pie chart, percentage based and bar graph, there will be a lot of calculations that we are going to get rid of. So if you look at village A, this is 25% of the total number of voters, which is 20,000. We don't need that because in ratio 20,000 will cancel out. Then out of these many total number of voters, only 84% they went ahead and they cast their vote. If 15% were invalid, then the valid votes were remaining 85%. So this is all about village A. If I talk about village C, so 20% of 20,000 voters went ahead and cast their vote. Out of this 20%, 75% were 20% were voters and 75% they went ahead and cast their votes. And out of that, 15% were invalid. That means the remaining 85% were valid. So this is about village C, right? So if I want to take the ratio, 85% will go away. 25 into 3 is 75. And then 4 into 3 is 12. So if I get rid of 4 and 3, I'll be left with 5. And if I get rid of 12 from here, I'll be left with 7. 7:5, B option makes sense. Question number 6. What is the number of valid votes cast in village A? If you talk about village A, total number of people who can actually vote are 24% of 20,000, out of which 82% of the people, they went ahead and they cast their votes, out of which 25% were invalid. That means 75% were valid. So looking at this, we should be getting an answer. Well, we don't really have to calculate everything. Well, 24 is in the table of 3 and 75 is also in the table of 3. That means our answer should be in the table of 9. Looking at 82, we can also say that our number should be in the table of 41 also, because this 9 and 41, these are not going to go away. Let's look at the options. This is not in the table of 9. This is 19, sum of digits of the option. This is also not in the table of 9. This is also not in the table of 9. This is in the table of 9. This is not in the table of 9. So 9 itself will help us solve it. If you check for multiple of 41, I believe D will still stand out. So answer is D without doing any calculation. In village C, if the ratio of the number of males to females who cast their votes is 3:2, and if the ratio of the number of males to females who are valid voters is 2:1, then find the difference between the number of males who had cast their votes and the number of females whose votes are valid. Well, since you're talking about the same village, so we really don't need that 20,000 or what percentage of that is going to continue ahead. We can take a sample number. We have to think of a number whose 3:2 we can divide properly and whose because we are dealing with 75%, right? So we're not going to calculate 75% of anything. We'll start from that 75% answer and then we are going to break it down. So we need 75% as in the table of 3 and another in the table of 3. So we need a value which should be, let's try 300. So suppose this corresponds to 300 people. Out of these 300 people, we can see that the number of males and females, they are in the ratio 3:2. So if we talk about number of males, so this is going to be 180. If we talk about number of female, this is going to be 120, right? Sum is 300 and ratio is 3:2. Now, out of these 300, 15% were invalid, right? That means 15% of 300, that is 45 votes were invalid. That means the remaining 255 votes, these are valid votes. Now these 255 valid votes, they are divided in the ratio 2:1 for male and female. So if we talk about how many male we are going to have here and how many female who have cast valid votes. So we've to divide 255 in the ratio 2:1. So 255 when divided into 3 equal parts, we are going to get 85. So male will be 85 into 2, which is 170, and female will be simply 85. Find the difference between the number of males who had cast their votes. These many males had cast their votes, and the number of females whose votes are valid. So we have to find the difference between these two. Well, the difference between these two is 95. In our sample value, if the answer is turning out to be 95, then in the actual value, the answer should be in the table of 95. Not necessarily 95, then maybe in the table of 19 for sure, right? 1050 is not in the table of 19, 1000 is not in the table of 19, 850 is not, 925 is not, only E makes sense. So we started with 300, maybe the total number of people after 75% of total people in that village C will give us 3000 maybe. That's what it's telling us. It's 10 times, right? So without doing any calculation, we can straight away go to option E. Eighth, in village A, there were only 2 candidates in the election. If the winning candidate received 60% of the valid votes that were cast, and if the ratio of the invalid votes received by the winning candidate to that received by the losing candidate is 2:7, then find the total number of votes cast that were received by the winning candidate in village A. Whoever is a winner should be only a part, should only get the votes that are valid votes. So invalid votes doesn't make sense here, right? But anyways, we are supposed to calculate. So if we talk about village A, the total number of voters we have is 20,000 overall. 84% of, 25% of those, that is 1/4, which is going to be 5,000 are the total number of voters in village A, right? Out of this 5,000, 84% are valid votes. So these are valid. Not valid. These are the total votes cast. So this is going to be 4,200. Now, out of this 4,200, 15% are invalid. 15% will mean 10% is 420 plus 210, which is going to give us 630. So 630 votes are invalid. That means the remaining 3570 votes are valid votes. So these are now valid votes and these are invalid votes. Now, as per the question, winning candidate receives 60% of the valid votes. So the winner gets 60% of this number. And the invalid votes were distributed in the ratio 2:7. So winner gets 2/9. So I should be writing over here 2/9 of 630, which is going to be 70 into 2. So the winner gets 140 of the invalid votes plus 60% of 3570, which is 357 into 6, which is going to be 35 into 270. So 2100. 2100 plus 7642. Right. 2142. So this is going to be 2282. These are the total number of votes that the winner got. So delta makes sense. 140 invalid votes and 2142 valid votes. Maybe here the meaning of invalid votes is not like it's not counted anywhere. It's more like the person voted for the winning candidate, but that person maybe did not exist on paper, or maybe some other issue. The ballot paper was folded or something else.